Well, we've made it to March, and the world is still turning in spite of the drama in yesterday's Oval Office meeting between Trump and Vance and Zelensky. And I really am not going to talk too much about what actually happened during that meeting because it makes my blood boil and because everybody's talking about that today. Um, I do have some thoughts, though, and as somebody who spent 2 years in the former Soviet Union, and I know people from Ukraine, um, and I live in a country where Ukraine is highly supported. I'm disgusted by what happened yesterday. It's certainly not something that I want to be affiliated with. It makes me very angry that we're now in this position and we don't agree with what is going on between Trump and Putin and Zelensky. Uh, Unfortunately, if you're just a regular person, other than talking about it and writing about it, we're powerless to stop what is happening. Um, at least not on our own. I do have some hope that this bullshit is going to end before too long. But who knows? But I do want to talk a bit about our travels because I think that that is a more positive thing to discuss. I've been very fortunate in that I've been able to go to a lot of different countries and I've lived in other countries. And it's given me a unique perspective that I think is lacking among Americans. And I've been sharing some of our stories. Yesterday I shared about Fasching and getting mooned. And I recently shared about going to beer spas in Austria and running into a Buddhist monk. Today I want to talk about artists in the Czech Republic. My husband and I, Bill, we've been to the Czech Republic a few times. The first time we went was in, I think it was June 2008. It was my birthday. And it was an impromptu visit. Bill was in the Army in the early 80s, or the mid 80s. And he used to actually guard the German-Czech border. So he remembers when the Czech Republic was behind the Iron Curtain. It was many years before he met me, so I was in high school at that time. But anyway, we went to Český Krumlov and Český Budějovice. I think I said that right. That is where Czech Budweiser is made. And it was a lot of fun. We had a good time. So we went back in November of that year. We went to Dresden in East Germany, and then we went to Poland, Bolesławiec, and then we went to Prague for our anniversary. And we picked up some art on that trip. I will share. Well, we picked up art in a Prague art gallery, actually run by an Armenian. And then in February of 2009, over Valentine's Day weekend, we went to Beer Spa there, and we visited a town called Karlovy Vary. And there was a man selling paintings. We went up and talked to him, and he had this one painting that I just loved. But he said, "You don't want that one, it's so expensive." So we ended up buying a different one. But I couldn't stop thinking of that painting. So my husband arranged to buy it. And I think it was maybe $200 that he wanted for it. It's probably one of my favorite paintings of all the ones that we own. And I will show a picture, and you can judge for yourself. But I love it because it reminds me of me and Bill. And, the guy was from Russia, had lived in America for a while, was making album covers. I think it was for Virgin Records. And then he came back to Europe and was selling his art. Lives in Prague now. Well, years later, in October 2023, we decided to go back to the Czech Republic. We've been a few times since that purchase that we made of the dragons that I just showed you. But this time it was because we were going to Stuttgart to see our dentist. However, our dentist neglected to tell us that he had closed the practice for German Reunification Day. They had scheduled our appointment, but never rescheduled it. And so when we got there, the dentist wasn't there. Nobody was there. And we ended up hanging out in Baden-Württemberg for a couple of days, and then we went to Český Krumlov again, where we bought a couple more paintings. And then, in fact, we bought another one of my favorite paintings at that gallery. And then we went to Brno, where we encountered a hungry Roma woman who ate our leftovers at a fest, which I will probably make a video to talk about because that was a very profound experience. And then we went on to Prague. And we had lunch at this Italian restaurant, and our waitress spoke English very well. Turned out she was from Ukraine. And I had told her that we were planning to go to Armenia the following month to celebrate our anniversary. And, wow, why would you go to Armenia for that? And it was because I had lived there for 2 years. And it was our first visit as a couple, and my first time back since 1997. My husband's first time there at all. So she wished us well and said, be careful, because at that time there was all this unrest going on because of Artsakh and Russia basically abandoning Armenia and the Azeris basically kicking them out of Karabakh. Turned out that wasn't a big deal at all. We had a great time in Armenia. No issues. But after we had lunch at that restaurant, we decided to buy some more art. And there was a shop near our hotel. We went into this shop, and there was a man in there who spoke English. And on one side of the shop, there were touristy things that were small. And on the other side, there were paintings. And he seemed very excited that we were looking at the paintings. And I saw one that I really liked that featured cats on the Charles Bridge. I'm not a cat person. My mother-in-law is a cat person, but I really liked the theme of this art. But then I noticed another painting that he had of cats playing in a swing band on the Charles Bridge. And we had just heard the Charles Bridge Swing Band. If you go to Prague, you will probably encounter them. They basically hang out there and play music, and they're really, really good. I bought one of their CDs. Whenever one of their songs comes up on the HomePod, I stop in my tracks because they're just that good. And they were playing American music. So I was trying to decide, well, which one do I want? And I said, you know what? Screw it. Let's just buy both. Well, he was overjoyed to hear that. And he said, this is so nice because usually Americans come in here and they just want to buy small things. And I said, yes, because they have to fly home. And he said, yeah. And I said, well, luckily for you, we live in Germany, so we're just going to put the paintings in our car. And it was great. And he was telling me about how he and his wife had come up with the concept for this painting. I think it was his idea, but she actually did the painting. And so I said, oh, this is wonderful. And I said, well, where are you from? Because a lot of people live in Prague that are not from Prague. And he said, he stopped for a minute and he looked a little bit ashamed. And he said, well, actually, I'm from Russia. And it was about 18 months after Russia invaded Ukraine. And yeah, Russia invaded Ukraine. It was not the other way around. And he looked like maybe he was afraid we would just turn and walk out. But I said, well, don't worry. We'll give your paintings a good home. They're beautiful. And I was reminded, last night of that interaction. It is embarrassing to be from a country that has leadership that acted the way that Trump has been acting. But one thing that I have learned in my travels is that everybody basically wants peace. And most people are decent, and it doesn't really matter where you come from. Nobody can help that anyway. And as I have seen among my countrymen, most of us, at least the people that I know, do not support what Donald Trump and J.D. Vance did yesterday. We all just want to get through life. We all want to live peacefully and safely and have prosperity. And that requires cooperation and collaboration and not stealing minerals or lands or being aggressive and hostile to leaders of other countries. So I'm thinking of that artist and realizing it isn't his fault. He's Russian. And that's really not something that anybody should hold against him. Russians are not inherently bad people. The leadership right now, I think, is not so good. And the same could be said for the United States, at least in my opinion. But it's been a real privilege and pleasure to travel around Europe and get to know people and hear their stories and collect memories. So I hope that this story is useful to somebody out there. And if you made it to the end, thank you for listening. We'll see you the next time. Maybe it'll be a music video. Have a good Saturday.